Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. You're watching episode 34 of Yield TV. Okay, so it's November 18th, 2020, and today we're going to talk with Jessica Salomon. So, Jessica is the head of marketing and strategy at 1inch Exchange. She's previously worked with MakerDAO and Aave, and really part of the reason I wanted to talk with Jessica is as we're starting to see the bull market build in crypto. I think we're clearly in a bull market at this point. Jessica's been working in the space for years, and since your history at MakerDAO makes you one of the few people in the world who's lived through a bull market while working in DeFi, I'm hoping we can learn a lot from you today. So, anyways, Jessica, welcome to Yield TV. How are you doing?
Totally. Thank you. I'm doing good. Lots of exciting stuff happening on the 1inch side. So always invigorated there.
Yeah, gosh, and I want to make sure I might have actually not mentioned that. I said that you were like head of marketing and strategy. It's at 1inch Exchange.
Yeah.
We just a week ago interviewed Sergey, who's the co-founder, and so 1inch Exchange is, I believe, of all the DEX aggregators, it's done the highest trade volume or the most trade volume to date. And anyways, it's a DEX aggregator that I've used regularly. So the fact that you guys are working together, again, it's probably a dream team you've got there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty exciting team. So if you guys are looking to save money on your swaps, check out 1inch. They've got some technology for you.
If anyone hasn't used 1inch before, just a reminder, it's basically a search engine for trades. So you can search across all of the DeFi liquidity pools. They have, I think, 23 pools, maybe 25 now, because you guys just added a few more in the last few days. And it just means, like, why would you go look across all those different pools? Like, why would you go to like a Uniswap versus Balancer when you can just go to 1inch and find it all there? So anyways, Jessica, do you mind telling us more about, I cut you off earlier. You were telling me before we went live about your background. Take me back to, like, what did you work in before jumping into crypto? How did you actually discover crypto? And I'm curious, like, how you got started at MakerDAO.
Totally. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. So I did a master's degree after college, and that was in criminology, which was exciting and interesting. And then I went to intern with the UN and the Crime and Research Institute in Italy, which was cool and fun. But I kind of missed, like, seeing the energy that was just around when I was in college with all my friends that had gone to Berkeley with me. They were all in these cool startups and were very excited about the things that they were working on. And I thought, oh, I think, like, maybe I would like to also do something with that sense of excitement and kind of entrepreneurship to it. And I have a little brother. At the time, he was like 18 or so, and he was just always on Reddit. And I'd, like, call home from Italy and, like, talk to him and see what was up. And every time I talked to him, he'd get all excited about this crypto stuff. This is all in, like, early 2017. And so then I sort of started to look into it more myself. I'd heard of crypto for, like, various reasons, like just going to Berkeley, people using it for like nefarious stuff or whatever. But,
And I'm sorry, were you saying that he was at Berkeley at the time? Or
no, he was at Berkeley. He was like in some sort of community college situation, but they like crypto too. So he was
in the Berkeley area.
Yeah. So but no, I just went to Berkeley, and, like, a lot of the kids that go to Berkeley, they all join startups and get stoked on their startups, especially, like, right when they graduate. So I kind of missed out on that because I was, like, over in Europe working for the United Nations, and it just doesn't have that same startup attitude. But yeah, and so I talked to him. He'd be super excited about all of his cryptos and all those stuff going on with that. And I just started to kind of look at Reddit and see whatever this all was. And I kind of decided like maybe this could be my thing. So then I had a contact that I'd met while I was traveling, and basically he connected me, and eventually I was like working on his ICO, which was Block V. And so I started as like the first community manager there, if you guys have heard of that. And then from there, I moved on to MakerDAO, and I was the first community manager at MakerDAO. I was basically like the first like non-developer like employee to work there. But that was in December of 2017. So I started in December of 2017, like around Christmas time. I was very excited. I was very happy. I thought my life was going great. Yeah. And then in January, I was even happier. I was like, everything's going very well for me. It's getting my MKR, all this cool stuff with all that. And you know, that's like the first 2 months of my job and working. And then everything just dipped, and it was not a bull market anymore for a long period of my career. But now we're back.
Now we're back. Yeah. I can mostly empathize with that story. I mean, I joined Consensus in the summer, so this was 6 months into this like bubble bursting. And at the time, I mean, there was actually a little bit of reprieve in the summer. I don't know if people remember, but gosh, I think like Ether might have gone back up to even $700 or $800 for a moment in time. And my friends were joking with me months after that the price of Ether had continually gone down since I had started working full time in the crypto space. So they were like, prices go down the longer you've worked in this space. And I was like, yeah. But I showed them, look at now, we were right. So anyways, going back to that then, so you joined Maker, and you're now working as the bubble is bursting. I guess, can you talk to me about what was it like then? I mean, you were still working at one of the most reputable names in the crypto space. It was one of the only projects that was delivering any sort of product at that time. So like, what do you recall from all of that? I mean, did it feel like chaotic, or
it was wild. It was wonderful. So when I started, it was basically like an unknown idea. There were people that knew in December what Maker was, like legit people, but I felt like there was kind of some drowning out in terms of like there was tons of projects with like huge marketing arms that didn't actually have products yet, but they had a lot going on for them. But then I was so excited to come on as this community manager who basically had like an unlimited budget, because it's like just all this money in the space at this point, which is pretty interesting. And so I started to sponsor the ETH Global hackathons, because I realized there's just like so much energy at those types of things, just all these sorts of events with like people developing. And what was beautiful about Maker is that Maker actually had a product that people could kind of work with and do really exciting things with. Like just seeing that, especially when I started, like the fact that I started like the day that DAI launched. The fact that it all worked at that point was absolutely awesome. So then people just started to use the whole Maker infrastructure into their own like little personal projects more. Eventually, we started a whole grants program within Maker, and it was just kind of incredible to see the virtuous circle that DeFi really can be. And that at the time, like it felt like Maker was really the only DeFi. Like it was decentralized finance. That was what it was. So it was exciting to watch all that. And then I left Maker in June of 2019, actually. Yeah, so not too long ago. Actually. But I left then, and then I started consulting on other opportunities because there was just more stuff happening in the space at that point, and DeFi was just kind of like reforming into more of an ecosystem. So I started helping out with Aave, helped out with this blockchain game that's really fun and cool. My Crypto Heroes, I got to live in Tokyo to do that for a month. And yeah, and now here I am at 1inch, which is another team that in some ways kind of reminds me of Maker in that like they really do deliver, and like that's definitely something special.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, there's there's no doubt your team ships often. There's just there's been so much that's been added to that DEX aggregator and Mooney swap. And I know you guys recently had an update to your liquidity mining we should talk about. Can I for a moment go back to December 2018 is a really interesting time. You know, that was basically the capitulation of the crypto markets. Ether went down to like $80. Bitcoin, I think, hit a low of, it was still above 3,000. Yeah, it was above 3,000, but it was around like 3,100. And those were for Ether, it was, I think, a 95% drawdown. I think for Bitcoin, it was like 85 to 90%. What were you thinking about as a marketer at that time? Like,
yeah,
curious,
definitely.
like, how do you react to a situation like that? Because it was scary, obviously, for all of us.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, I planned a lot of like physical events too. And I remember thinking maybe this shouldn't be open bar anymore because
yeah,
maybe well alcohol will work better than whatever you guys want from the top shelf.
Bud Light, everyone. It was an open bar before, but it's Bud Lights for everyone.
Quality of life is going down. But yeah, I was concerned definitely in terms of like what the marketing budget would be at that point. I actually moved from it in December 2018. Then I moved to the business development department at Maker in January, which was really exciting. And like one of the things I really love about the crypto industry too is that there's just so much opportunity to kind of like work synergistically with all these kind of different people and on all these different things because they all just sort of fit together beautifully. Like business development essentially is marketing in a lot of ways, I think, in DeFi, crypto, all sorts of stuff, because we're not really like actually selling products in the same sense as you would see within like traditional industries.
Could you drill down into that, Jessica? Like, what does it mean to have worked in business development at Maker? I get lots of messages from people asking like, hey, what job do you think I could fill in the crypto space? I have a BD background.
No, that's a great question. And even like right now, I know it says in the blue text, I lead marketing and strategy, but really, I think like the jobs in crypto, it's better when they're a little bit less specific and that we just kind of like work together on what can in fact be done, because there's not really like the same sense of sales goals and quotas that you could potentially have with almost like any other traditional industry. So it's really more like reaching out and getting in touch and figuring out how it is that like a collaboration can happen. But more often than not, like those collaborations are kind of a combination of both business and marketing. Like they're not mutually exclusive, or like sort of by definition cannot be.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. So I worked a traditional like account executive job at one point in my career, and that was all about maintaining the sales pipeline and making sure that I was showing that I was not only selling enough to hit my number monthly or quarterly, whatever, but it was also about showing that even if I didn't have a good month, that I was pushing conversions through this pipeline. It's just so different in crypto because a lot of what's offered in our space, unless you work in enterprise related applications of Ethereum, it's all about someone discovering, like as a retail investor, as any sort of investor, how to use these applications. So yeah, I feel like there's a stronger sense of marketing still stands on the same legs it does in
Hmm.
a traditional software world. Like at the end of the day,
Hmm.
you have to convince people that this is something that they want to use, and you're trying to craft language and communicate to them why this is valuable, like why this can solve some
Hmm.
problem in their life. But on the BD side, yeah, I think a lot about like continually hosting community calls and continually
Hmm.
uh, interacting with the community. Now it could be done through a Discord. There's so much that's being
Yeah.
done through the Discord community. So yeah. Anyways, do you recall anything else about like how did you guys measure success in business development at Maker? Or
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a good question, actually. To be honest, I'm not sure that there's a super succinct or perfect way to do that, because like the metrics just get so complicated when like you can't actually, or it's not that you can't, but it's more difficult to say like how much money a business development person has brought in when they're
yeah,
not really bringing in money.
yeah, yeah. Well, especially with Maker, because with Maker,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was all about people going to open up vaults. And there's no doubt, like I would imagine it's hard to attribute like, well, where does that success come from? Because everyone
Hmm.
is focused on those few metrics of how many vaults are opening, how much ETH is
Hmm.
deposited, how much DAI has been drawn. At the same time, I've always wondered like maybe that is what has made Maker so successful, is that I think from the start these were really radical mechanisms, but
Hmm.
the utility of it was so unique. Like you couldn't go open a vault anywhere at the time. It was really
Yeah.
Compound was the first viable option beyond Maker to collateralize some ether and take a loan against it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I actually think in some ways the fact that people don't necessarily have the same sense of like sales goals that they would in another industry is sort of beautiful about crypto, because it kind of paints like how all encompassing the reality of this stuff is, and like allows you to look like further beyond like metrics that are really easy to see, and just seeing like how maybe things are going from a holistic point, and like how all the parts just sort of fit together in some way. And yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean it definitely, like, I suppose that everything's just kind of like ethereal in to some extent. Like it's just not that clear. But
It is. Well, it is that, what's the old saying? It's like it happens all at once. Gosh, I can't remember what it is. It's
mm,
slow at first and then all at once, something like that. But
yeah.
the point is if you go back 3 or 4 years ago and you tried to explain DAI to many people who were already deep into the crypto space, it was like, what is this thing?
Hmm.
Like what do you mean it's a stable coin? Like why would it hold its peg, and it's over
Yeah.
collateralized? Like why would any of this work? And now, despite the fact that I think like most of the world that isn't into crypto or Ethereum or DeFi, even though they wouldn't know what it is, DAI is just, it's an accepted truth. Everyone knows that it's a
Hmm.
stable coin, and they know that it's a better stable coin than, or it's a better medium of exchange than us using a volatile crypto like some
Right.
Ether. Jessica, I guess on that note, like what trends do you think are important in DeFi right now for users? Like, what should they be paying attention to or learning about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that just the education component in general is probably one of the most important parts of expanding DeFi to more and more people that could potentially use it, especially now that like gas prices aren't as wild as they originally were in the summer, in which it really only made sense for whales to use these things. So I think just sort of paying attention to how it is that maybe like people that don't have as much experience in DeFi, but still have like a lot of interest in crypto and want to learn more about it can kind of be like onboarded into the industry as a whole, and being somewhat more inclusive in the messaging and like the kind of targeting of potential users is pretty important right now. And I think in the end, if we do a good job of it, especially with like you, DeFi Dad, who has these awesome educational videos that really do like teach people in a kind of tangible way what they can do to like not get wrecked and lose all their stuff, is pretty brilliant and important. So just like, and kind of looking how we can best inform more and more types of users.
Yeah. No, that definitely resonates with me. I know we're really focused at Zapper on just trying to educate newcomers. And I think before we started this, I was saying, despite all the content that we're putting out, despite the content that I had put out previously, I still feel a lot of insecurity about, whether we're doing enough. Like, are we honing in on the right educational topics? Are we using the right language? We were just this morning, we were talking about the term zap and the fact that, does the average user know what a zap is? And it's like, to me, it always made sense because it was this idea based off of like a Zapier, and that you can create a shortcut. If you want to take your money and put it into a Uniswap, you zap it in. That's what you do now with Zapper. But the frame of reference for me is different than newcomers. Newcomers today will probably just use Zapper, and they will take their money. Let's say they start with Ether, and they will have it split 50-50, and it'll go into an ETH DAI pool in Uniswap. I remember having to prepare that 50-50 provision, having to go trade, realizing also that I'll never get the 50-50 provision perfect, that the market will move. And so then I'm left with some extra DAI or some extra Ether. And by the time I do all of this, I've gone through like 5 transactions. Now with like a Zap, you can just do it in one. And I guess my point with all of this is, like, how do you communicate that? What really matters to the newcomer into this space? They don't care that it took me 5 transactions a year ago to get into it. They now know how to zap in. It's like, what's the real purpose of this? Do they even understand what the money is doing when we put it into a liquidity pool like Mooniswap? Do they understand what actually happens? Do they understand the impermanent loss? There's just so much risk that you can be exposed to that you want to educate people on. And I'm anxious about what we should be preparing as new users come into the space. So I guess, like, what do you think about with 1inch right now? Like, what beyond education, like, I guess, is there anything in particular you're finding users struggle to understand about, like, a 1inch or DeFi in general?
Yeah, to be honest, well, 1inch is of course always shipping products, so we'll ship like more and more complex products soon. But I actually think, like, now that 1inch has launched the new V2, which is quite beautiful and easy to use, it seems like the users don't have that much difficulty with it, because they're just going ahead and like making swaps, and now they can kind of customize like how the swaps work, what their slippage preferences are, or how they want to optimize gas, all of these things. But like having like really beautiful, easy to use products is pretty important. Because when I first started at Maker, I mean, it was incredible because like, look, this is an actual product that works and is totally like game changing. But I mean, it like there wasn't like a UX, like there wasn't some huge UX team yet. So it like didn't look that easy for someone like me, who's not a brilliant developer, to go ahead and try and like create a CDP with. So I think like UX is definitely really important in terms of onboarding more and more interested people. But also, like, I'm really excited about other projects that cater to the fact that some people are have like certain risks that they want to deal with. So like projects like Open that give people a sense of protection in terms of like options that they can go ahead and buy. I think that's super exciting and is probably going to be in many ways like the path forward for a lot of DeFi projects to start to integrate and get more and more people in this world comfortable using them.
That's such a good point. Actually, I want to just share my screen a sec and show. There's actually a few here. So you just mentioned 1inch. In case folks haven't tried this, it's very straightforward. If you've ever traded on a centralized exchange, if you haven't and you're just looking to swap tokens, I mean, you just literally just go in here and choose a token like maybe I choose Uni and I'm going to sell it for USDC. That's how easy it is. But then what you see below here, actually, let's try this. Let's do WBTC. Put it in one. Oh, shoot. Let's go back to that and increase the volume again. Okay. Check this out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is starting with wrapped Bitcoin, and it's being split across these 4 different routes. And that's across Mooniswap. Also I think you call it what, your Pathfinder. I mean, long story short is you get a lot of information here. Now, granted, you could just go and trade it. You don't even have to pay attention to this stuff. In fact, you can go into the settings and I think I can, there we go. Get rid of the routing and it all works. So this one, for someone who's ever traded on a Uniswap, again, I think like 1inch captures that idea of we are a search engine for the best trades in DeFi. When you go to Open, let me reshare my screen. So Open is on-chain non-custodial options, which just means it's a DeFi version of options. There's no middleman. I've always thought what you were saying is I've agreed with the fact that they were really clever to say it lets you protect your DeFi deposits and hedge ETH risk. Buy protection is so much more intuitive than buy an option. So I think Open, I'm not sure like at this point like what their volume looks like, but I thought this was a really clever tweak in just the language to get people to understand that actually you're just, if you hold Ether, you can buy a put option and you are buying, in this case, protection for that put option.
Exactly. Do you have educational videos on Open, actually?
I should do. You know what? I used to.
This is what we got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to write about them. Actually, there's one more here. I mean, just while we're talking about like really like well-designed DeFi products. Here we go. I really like Hedgic. It's just really intuitive. If you do understand what a put option is or a call option, you go in here and you can buy an ETH put. Let's say I buy one put option and the strike price in their case is, let's say I'm going to put it down at $450. So if I hold this for a day, I have up to 1 day for the price of Ether to fall to 450. That's when I can actually exercise. But then they do the math for you here and show, hey, if you paid $12.66 for this, you're break even at $437. And then to buy this, it's a single transaction with Ether. So, I mean, this is still early days. One of the things with like Hedgic and Open is I know the pricing is it's not aligned with what you'd find on a centralized exchange. But in my world, I actually just don't care about that because I don't want to use Deribit. This is easy to use, and I don't have to go through a KYC or sign up. I don't have to trust a Deribit. And in this case, I can just trust using the DeFi application. So this isn't financial advice that anyone should be buying options right now. It's just like really demonstrating that this is easy. I connected my Ethereum wallet, and now I'm just dependent on the code.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty beautiful the way all of the ethos of the Ethereum space and like blockchain in general can kind of be captured, and at the same time like provide more and more people. Even like I showed my dad like open and stuff, and he was like, I want to use this. All sorts of people can get
Yeah.
excited about
Yeah.
DeFi.
It's really cool. I mean, we're definitely living through like a special time with all of these like new money Legos, and I mean, I look forward to them having more liquidity and us knowing that the code is battle tested and that we're not worried about a bug. But you know, for right now, I guess there's potentially some more reward along with the greater risk. I don't know. That's how I
Yeah.
recognize it. Uh, Jessica, if you could go back to uh, that December 2017 when you joined Maker, given everything you've learned with like a Maker and Aave and now working at 1inch, I guess like what sort of advice would you give yourself then? Basically, what sort of advice would you give to others that are in a marketing or BD position working with a DeFi team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say like just to not work as a sort of island and just keep an eye on like all of the other exciting projects and exciting people in the space as well. Because in the end, like it's pretty synergistic. Like the sense of competition in blockchain is a bit different than like the sense of competition in the rest of the world. I think in a lot of ways, like there's so much room for like just collaboration and for things to be like components of one another.
Yeah, I definitely would advise anyone like pay attention to those random messages you get in your inbox. I've had some really talented teams reach out, and granted, this is if you're already working in the space. On the flip side of that, I would tell anyone like hop into a Discord. Don't be afraid to send people direct messages. The problem with like a Twitter is it normally filters those messages, so you got to hope that they check those new messages.
Yeah.
Point, but yeah, I think like this is a space where people are actually really accessible, and I'd say Discord is probably the most accessible place to reach out to a team.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think the accessibility is super key and something not to fall by the wayside. Just thinking about all the ways that you can like be a part of other projects and communities is super exciting and important.
Jessica, do you see any commonalities between Maker, Aave, and 1inch? Just those are like three more reputable names that you've worked across. Like anything that you see as like what's the secret sauce that makes these teams so successful?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say just the ambition of them all. Just like having like very ambitious goals, but then also being able to deliver on that sort of ambition and really executing is super important. Of course, like with Maker, it was really interesting because when I started, like I was like the most fortunate person in the world. Like I'm starting with like this absolutely like world changing product that's like right there and people can actually start to use, and it hasn't really gotten like all of the like marketing and fluff and stuff around it yet. So just kind of that drive of wanting to like create more and more, and then actually doing so in a way in which, you know, like things don't get too messed up is pretty important.
Yeah, there's it's like a double-edged sword. I think the more like radical and forward-thinking it is, the sometimes the longer the road is to adoption. And I just yesterday I talked to the co no, not the co-founder, the founder. I think Yaron is the solo founder of B Protocol. And B Protocol it stands for Backstop Protocol. The idea is that you open up your loan with Maker through B Protocol, or eventually B Protocol is just implemented into something like a DeFi saver. And then by doing that, you're using basically a system that allows those who do liquidations to have a more dependable stream of liquidations. And then
Hmm.
as a reward, you as a user earn a portion of the liquidation fees. And it's one of those things like when I first looked at it, I was like, what is this? Like it sounded complicated to me. And like, what do we need
Hmm.
this for? Well, if you lived through March 2020 and you saw the global markets, including like stocks and crypto, kind of all crashed together, uh, we saw what happened when liquidations failed on Maker. That could happen again in a major drawdown. That could happen also though with like a Compound and Aave, anyone who does lending. So anyways, I guess my point is, as I was like learning about this, I'm like, here's yet another idea that I think is a little bit ahead of the market. And it's
Hmm.
thankfully being implemented by some forward thinking teams. Like Aave intends to implement it eventually. Maker has it working already. Uh, and that's exciting, but again, it's a difficult road because there's only so many people in the world that understand how liquidations work with something like Maker. There's only so many
Hmm.
people that understand that this is a really good idea to prevent some sort of catastrophe from happening again. And I guess the challenge now is they have to go out and communicate that and get users to start using it. Because if the users use it, then the liquidators know that there's more, probabilistically they have there's more for them to earn there. Like they're still going to have a small fraction of folks that actually get liquidated, but the more people using it, the more liquidations, and then the users get rewarded, and it's all the same sort of virtuous cycles that happen with these DeFi applications. Jessica, can you tell me, like, what do you think are the most compelling applications for DeFi in this market as BTC or Bitcoin is rallying? Which Bitcoin today it was around like 18,000
Yeah.
points, so we're near new all-time highs for Bitcoin, which I think we've all surmised will be followed by lots and lots of excitement, for all of the crypto market. ETH is just below $500 today.
Hmm.
Anyways, yeah, what do you think are the most compelling DeFi applications for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, well, I guess TBTC is really interesting. So people could certainly look more into that if we're looking for kind of like the
Yeah,
bridge between Bitcoin and DeFi, and they're an awesome team. So certainly things like that. But of course, I've got to shill 1inch, 1inch, and then also, yeah, like open, like I mentioned before, I think is really exciting because I think there are like more and more people that are gonna want to look into like these like opportunity for options.
Yeah, options was missing in that last bull market. I think even like centralized exchanges selling options. I wouldn't know because I was too new to the space, but my understanding is it was still really limited in terms of liquidity. Now
Yeah.
throwing out DeFi for a moment, someone could very easily go buy Bitcoin or ETH options,
Hmm.
and it's a really important tool in finance. So that's good that we have that. I think
Yeah.
that like, puts us in a better place as an industry. But at the same time, I'm just excited to see, like you said, like open options take off, other derivatives as well. Like the fact
Hmm.
is, I don't really care to hold traditional stocks. I would rather actually gain exposure to indexes or to
Hmm.
equities with something like a simple.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
derivatives. We covered what DEX aggregators, options. I mean,
Also, if
oh,
you're looking at to put your liquidity somewhere and earn as a liquidity provider, MooneySwap I think was pretty incredible. They launched that like the first week I started working on 1inch. It was like my first day. They're like, we just built this, but it's absolutely amazing. Like it uses this thing called virtual balances that Vitalik had sort of tweeted about the concept, and then they fully realized into this AMM, in which it gives the LP just more opportunity to keep some of the slippage profits after like a 5 minute time delay, as opposed to like all of that going to arbitrageurs. So That's
Wow.
also like a pretty solid option. And 1inch actually just released today the second stage of their liquidity mining program for when like the 1inch token eventually launches. People will earn even greater percentage of that if they're providing liquidity on Swap. So that's pretty sick if anyone's looking to put their money somewhere.
Yeah, you know what? Let me look up here the new liquidity mining program. I hadn't checked this out. Um, Anything else you want to point out about that, Jessica? So if one
Yeah.
wants to provide liquidity in Swap, which it's very similar to what any of us have done with like a Uniswap or a balancer.
Mm.
Also, keep your eyes open for we will have zaps for Swap. That'll make it a lot
Yeah.
easier. But you'll have to remind me, can I add liquidity in Swap with a single token? Like, can I just, or do I have to have both tokens prepared?
You gotta have both prepared for the most part. However, we're gonna launch like another version of Swap too, but yeah, definitely you're gonna need two tokens. And like choose like if you want to like earn a part of that liquidity mining program,
Yep.
choose like one of the pairs that is
Oh,
specified as earning.
oh,
But
this,
there's a lot of them. There's like
yeah.
40 different pairs that
Well, no, this is really timely. I missed this. So this stage 2 of liquidity mining is it includes the 4 pairs that just expired on Uniswap. So
exactly. So it's just like we already included those pairs for the most part. We're just giving like more money to those pairs, or like a more percentage of 1inch token to those pairs. But yeah, so pretty easy. I mean, like it was easy for me to go ahead and just use Swap and provide liquidity on there. So I'm sure it'll be easy for other people too. But it could be even easier with like these projects like Zapper helping everybody out.
Yeah, no, that's the challenge to be solved there is like right now with the 4 pairs you guys called out there. So it's an additional 1% of the 1inch token.
Yeah.
It hasn't been released yet. So just keep your eyes open for that. That's expected by the end of 2020, according to Sergey. The rewards will apply to liquidity providers. The extra 1% of the 1inch token to be distributed will be for LPs in the ETH wrapped Bitcoin, USDC, DAI, and Tether pools. So anyways, yeah, if you're in the Uniswap pools, this is another option. We saw a lot of liquidity flow into Sushi Swap, some flow into Balancer, and yeah, this is yet another great option. At least I'll say I can't offer financial advice, but again, I've used Swap and I use Dex Aggregator regularly. Jessica, anything else that you think is worth sharing? Like anything else that has been exciting to you lately in DeFi, or just that you're looking forward to seeing built out over the next few months?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to how 1inch, of course, we're going to launch a 1inch token and things like that. How the community will really become even more and more important to how things happen for these kind of meaningful protocols that allow you to save money if you want to, or do whatever it is that you want to do, and just having like all of those opinions sort of heard. I love, like, we got a lot of feedback from our community when first we announced a plan to have a token, and so I think like just that feedback is really, really important and valuable for us as we evaluate like what the people actually want and inform our strategy. So love for people to like ping me and tell me their opinions on stuff, and I can try and fit it in a way that like works well for everybody.
Yeah, so yeah, just a reminder to everyone, you can follow Jessica on Twitter here, but then also go to oneinch.exchange. There's a link there to join the Discord community, and that's one of the best places to really be able to ask questions and interact with the team. as long as you're respectful, it's always incredible how responsive the team is. But I caveat that with being respectful. There's I know, and even in our Zapper Discord, we occasionally get someone who's just a little bit rude, but
no, it's chill. But you can just DM me on Twitter, and you can be as rude as you want. I'm pretty shy. I don't really post publicly on Twitter, but you can DM me and you can have a rude conversation. It'll be fine.
Just to clarify, if you DM me and you're rude, I probably won't respond. But then later on, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I missed this. Like, I say the same thing to people who are always rude to me. Oh, sorry, I missed this. Why am I apologizing to you? You were rude to me in the first place. That's such a weird thing. Well, Jessica, hey, thanks for joining me. I mean, this was really fun. Great to kind of like learn from all your experience. And yeah, like I said, make sure folks check out 1inch Exchange. There's that new phase of the liquidity mining program with MooneySwap, which is the automated market maker that is a part of the 1inch suite of products. And other than that, I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow we will interview Stani from Aave. So coincidentally, we talked a little bit about Aave today, and we'll interview Stani tomorrow. But yeah, Jessica, thanks again. And hope to have you back really soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much, DeFi Dad, and thanks, Yield TV.
And actually, hang on a sec. I'm just going to end the broadcast, and then we can chill out a sec like I normally do. So anyways, bye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern with Stani from Aave. Oh, and I forgot my little video. There we go. Bye, everyone.